Hey everyone, my name is Valentina Paevskaya, and the topic of today's video is baby's emotional diary. I actually talk about it very often during my workshops, but I thought it makes sense to actually give it in more details in a separate video and explain what it's all about. So let's talk about it. Let me explain why you should have it and what is the value of this approach. So originally, the oldest and most sticky type of memory we have is emotional one. Everything you go through in life related to negativity, negative emotions, bright and memorable, such as pain, loss, fear, anxiety, other bad things that have happened to you. So our subconscious mind is blocking it. It doesn't want you to remember it on a daily basis. Like imagine remembering every day how you broke your arm or how you were bitten by the dog. You would just stay at home and be in continuous stress. But when you're about to face a situation like that, what we call imminent threat, the threat that could happen but hasn't yet happened to you, your emotional memory wakes up and gives you triggers. Warning, be careful about that guy. Stay away from that. Or you see that big black dog approaching, so stay away, let it pass. Or when you're walking down a very slippery slope, on ice for instance, so you tread very, very carefully because you don't want to trip and fall over. People do that. If you've actually fallen on ice, you'll be very careful next time. So emotional memory is a very powerful tool, and it's a very useful thing. And it remembers everything. So all events are recorded. The thing is that the brain would erase the details, but it would keep the raw emotion. So actually, all psychologists work with this type of memory. Things that you can't remember, when you can't track down to the very beginning. You can't actually go back to the root cause. At what age did the baby start to stutter? What happened to him? Or when did this start to surface, or that? So we keep finding that, original trigger, because without knowing the original trigger, it's very difficult to actually adjust anything. So this therapy is basically an investigation which is stretched in time, where we go back in time and trying to peel off that onion and go back to the very root. So when you know the root cause, you can work with the problem. But because at this day and age, our children are surrounded by cartoons, movies, gadgets, tablets, computer games, and all sorts of other things, it's very difficult for their parents to actually pinpoint that single event that triggered this or that situation. And when there's a particular stressful situation that could, set course to, a series of events. The baby comes back home, he's basically watching cartoons or playing a game, so he's blocking this emotion, he's pushing it down. And the parents are overlooking this, so they don't notice the fact that the baby is acting in a strange way. Maybe he got scared, maybe he got bullied at school because the baby is sitting on the sofa watching his favorite cartoon or playing the game. So the mommy thinks that my baby is okay, because she doesn't know what's happening inside the baby. So for her, it's a business as usual. Sure, but the baby is actually pushing this emotion deep down, and then it starts to surface. And later on in life, it's very difficult for parents to connect these dots and connect a series of events and track it down to the root cause. So it's very difficult to be a control freak and keep track of your child on a daily basis. For that, you need help. It's called Baby's Emotional Diary. What is it all about? This can be a thick notepad or something like this. For instance, my life story. You can find it on Amazon, by the way. And this is available on multiple e-commerce sites. I think I ordered it on Amazon UK. So this is called My Life Story, and as you see, it's pretty thick. This is basically 100 years, from cradle to grave, and this is year by year, all sorts of events. You see, there's a lot of space, you can actually put pictures in there, and it has basically an instruction as to what type of information to put in it. You can do it on your own, of course. You can just buy any notebook or like a thick diary, whatever. So what kind of information do you need to write in it? So it's definitely not the kind of place where you would indicate, like for infants, like the weight of a baby or how many hours did the baby spend sleeping and things like that. No. This is for bright, colorful, emotional surges. Everything that was negative in baby's life, 100% you write it down. And good things, you also write it down. Such as the first time ever baby fell off the bicycle. Write it down. Or the first time ever they went to the doctors and the baby spent 2 hours crying, caused by this and that. Or he went to the grandma's and stayed overnight. Write it down. Or he was given a present, like a toy car, and he spends 2 days with it, like best friends ever. Write it down. Or his favorite toy throughout the year. Write it down. By the way, the younger the baby, the more of such favorite toys he would have. You can actually write it down month by month. This month, his favorite toy was this. Next month, his favorite toy was that. Also, write down his favorite color throughout the year. So parents overlook this very important factor. So I'll explain why it's important. Or the favorite beverage, or the favorite character, the cartoon character, or the book and the book character. If baby loves a particular book for 3 months, like 4 months in a row, it's a very strong signal. For instance, that 3-year-old and 4-year-old parents, they know that every baby has its own favorite fairy tale, like for instance the Kolobok or the Humpty Dumpty tale. And every time he wants you to read him bedtime story, he wants this story particularly. So there's an emotional attachment to this or that character. So as the baby gets older, of course, he switches from book to book, from character to character. So, but the older you get, the fewer of such characters and books you're gonna have. So the brightest memories usually go back to the very origin, to the earliest years of your life. So as an adult, what's your favorite book? You'd go back to the very beginning. So bear this in mind, please. This is very important. Write it down. So you gotta keep this diary. So, and you can basically see the baby evolve over time. So why is it important? Because this is an important element of our identity. What am I? What about my likes and dislikes? Why am I doing this or that? For instance, when you're writing down, like my baby was 4 years of age and would only eat fish and would never eat meat. Then, at 6 years of age, he switches from fish to just eating meat and nothing else. So you're basically mapping child's identity in this diary. So why is it important? The thing is that, unfortunately, nowadays, children spend a lot of time online. They spend so much time, playing gadgets, going on YouTube and all that, because pretty much in high school, a lot of that is project work and homework. You need to look up this or that particular information online. So children no longer watch TV. They mostly watch it on YouTube, even cartoons and shows and whatnot. So it's basically a fact of life. And so it happens that they are completely immersed into this virtual reality. So when they talk to their peers, let's say when they go to their friend's house, they would talk about computer games. They wouldn't go to the friend's house to, play some, table game, or they wouldn't collaborate baking something. But I know it for a fact that children don't do this anymore. They don't, bake like pizza together, don't make cookies together, and things like that. They don't do this anymore. I mean, we used to. The modern generation doesn't do that. So it's mostly electronic now and digital. So it turns out that the child is, when you ask a child, like, what do you want to be in life? So he doesn't know. He's missing that huge chunk. What are your true likes and dislikes? So when you become an adult, when you step out of the teenage and, about to graduate and find your way in life, you don't really know. You're struggling because you're in a crossroads. You don't really know, what am I? What's my identity? What do I want from life? And very often, this big question mark comes from that big chunk from 0 years of age to 7 years of age, where the identity is developed. So there's a critical 7 years of lifetime, where all basic concepts of genders, family values, and a whole bunch of other things because this comes basically within the first 7 years of life. And this chunk of memory is being erased, essentially. So ask yourself, what is the youngest you remember yourself? Usually something like 5 years of age. Very few actually can go back to 2 years of age. Right? I know I ask this question very often, during my workshops. People don't remember themselves at 2 years of age. So, but if you look at the actual tests related to suitability, things like that, or if you go to a particular workshop related to self-development, things like that, right? They all start with these kind of questions. What's your favorite fairy tale? What was your favorite toy? What was your favorite, food? What were your likes? What were your dislikes when you were little? What was your favorite food? How much time did you spend eating? Did you have a strong appetite for food? Because strong appetite for food equals strong appetite for life. So, and adults are struggling with these kind of questions nowadays. So it turns out that people kind of step away and deviate from the true path in life. So they're kind of lost, in a sense. They forget the time when they were careless and free and could do what they love and love what they do. So, and very often I see this with women that bear children and become stay-at-home moms. They actually find out very difficult to actually go back to their work because they realize that it's not what they love. They don't want to do this. They don't want to go to that environment again. They finally realize that this wasn't what they really were born to do. So they find reasons to stay at home. Very often it turns out that when you're an adult, it is very difficult to get second education, to step over yourself, to start from clean slate, as we say. It can be very difficult, to start new life. Yes, many people do that, but the overall majority, they procrastinate. And this is a terrible time for your baby because from a purely psychosomatic standpoint, babies react instantly because they get ill, they start to get ill, they fall ill all the time because their mothers want their babies to be ill so that they can find the reason to stay at home longer. I know it sounds terrible, but it's fact. So these actually stay at home in perpetuity almost. I see it every now and then. So this emotional diary is basically the best present you can have. You can give to your baby, to your child aged 14 to 17. So when you give this book, you say, look, this is you. This is your identity. This is who you are. This is how you were brought up. These are all your likes, your dislikes, and all the good and all the bad, and all the things that has happened to you. So all your fears and all your pleasures and all your endeavors and all your ambitions. Everything is in this diary. And believe me, many of you would like to have this kind of book, right? Because you also may be struggling for life and wondering why you're doing this and that and why you're not good at something. So we have the power now to invest in our children's future and help it. So, speaking of emotional diary, so many often, people are actually saying, why would you do that? We have this Instagram or Facebook, we have this time series and everything is tagged. So it's very difficult to, why would you, use the pen and paper? So, honestly, there are certain things that are too private to place on Instagram, because certain things you want to protect. But these private situations are the most important ones. Sometimes they're pivotal in child's life, so you want to keep it to yourself. So Instagram is good, I understand that. Of course you can post certain pictures and certain events, like the first time the baby falls off the bicycle, things like that, or some favorite toys, something like that. But believe me, you would never write about your failures on Instagram, because it's a fact. For instance, I didn't notice that my baby actually fell off the chair and actually hurt himself. You wouldn't, put such things on Instagram, online. And these are important because, whether we like it or not, but bad things happen to children in our presence. Sometimes parents overlook such things. And I'm also talking about myself. I've gone through this as well. So there's certain things that you want to keep private. And for that, you need this diary. It's a very private thing, so keep it And this is only between you and the diary. You should be the only one that have access to it. And besides that, all these cloud services, they're not very reliable, actually. Sometimes the data just goes missing. I back up every bit of data, believe me. I've had the situations many times before. If I didn't back up, I would definitely be missing now a huge chunk of information about myself and my children. So even if you do it in electronic form, have several backups, at least 2 copies. Okay? So that was Emotional Diary. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And this is, I believe, the most important thing you can do for your child, for the child's future. So I wish you, of course, success, big luck. I wish you could remember all the good things that have happened. And you will be surprised when you start writing it down at how many things you can actually remember. And I wish your child would learn as much more about himself as possible. Thank you. I'm Valentina Paevskaya. Until next time. Thanks for watching.